So, hello, we're joined today by two brilliant in-house lawyers, Fanny Palmieri, who is the head of the legal team at Euroclear's ESES, and Bart Garré, who is the head of Innovation Center of Excellence at Euroclear. Together with my colleague Alex Tollast, they will discuss digital bonds and share some insights on Euroclear's new digital issuance service. Alex, could you please kick things off by giving us a bit more color on what digital bonds are and why are we speaking about them today?
Sure. So digital bonds can be defined in various different ways, but there are generally two categories. You either have tokenized bonds, which are bonds that are immobilized before rights relating to those bonds are circulated in tokenized form on a distributed ledger. And second is digitally native bonds, and that's where the bond is issued directly onto a ledger. So at the most simple, digital bonds should be seen as traditional bonds which use DLT at some point during their life cycle. How that DLT is used depends on the government of the bonds, structural choices that are made, and also the operational capabilities of the infrastructure being used. The elevator pitch for digital bonds is quite simple. It's that they enable great operational efficiencies, which can help lead to cost savings, and also greater transparency, which may lead to useful data points for issuers and investors alike. Much is made of the potential for atomic settlement or near instantaneous settlement, but the cash lag can also be handled using off-chain payment rails. The digital bond market is still a nascent market, but there have been some significant transactions in recent years, most notably by the European Investment Bank. There are some who question why there hasn't been more activity in the digital bond space, and one of the reasons for that is that there's a key legislation called CSDR, which requires bonds traded on a trading venue to be recorded in book entry form in a CSD. One of the main advantages of the Euroclear platform is that the Euroclear D-FMI constitutes a CSD, and therefore this restriction doesn't require, and therefore digital bonds issued through D-FMI have secondary market liquidity. And with that, perhaps I'll hand back to you, Boika.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Alex. Well, maybe kicking off directly with Bart. Bart, we understand that Euroclear has rolled the Digital Securities Issuance Service, or the DSI service, and it is the first key milestone of your digital financial market infrastructure strategy. Could you please tell us more about it?
Yeah, for sure. So indeed, the DSI, Digital Securities Issuance, is the first service offering on the D-FMI, which is in fact the DLT platform operated by Euroclear Bank. What does it do? In fact, it facilitates the primary issuance and distribution of digitally native notes, so digital bonds. At the same time, what is quite innovative with the DSI is that it connects a DLT platform where the notes are issued with a legacy platform, the legacy component of the Euroclear Bank settlement system, so that the liquidity of that digital bond is not affected. So what you typically have in digital issuances is that secondary market settlement also occurs on the DLT platform, and the problem there is then that, of course, you have a limited number of investors and there is a limited liquidity. What we have here is the bond is issued digitally on the DLT platform, is also distributed to the dealers on that DLT platform, but then the notes are transferred to the legacy infrastructure, and there any type of investor which is already a participant of the Euroclear system can invest in digital bonds without having to connect to a DLT platform.
That's very interesting and quite innovative. Thank you. And maybe to follow up, how actually does this differ from the issuance of digital bonds through the DSI service differ from the issuance of traditional normal bonds through the ICSDs?
So maybe a first thing which is important to note is that the digitally native notes that are issued on the D-FMI, these are Eurobonds, so international bonds, and typically Eurobonds are issued either in bearer form or in registered form, and then they are immobilized in book entry form in the Euroclear system. What we have here is not a bearer bond or a registered bond, it's a dematerialized bond, so the bond is fully digital. There is no bearer underlying or no registered underlying. You issue immediately in dematerialized form. And then, so the dematerialized bond is then distributed to the dealers on the DLT platform, and then it is transferred to the wallet of Euroclear Bank on the D-FMI, and that transfer to the wallet of Euroclear Bank triggers the immobilization process, which already exists under the current legislation, and that allows for the representation of the bonds on the legacy component.
Understood. Thank you. I understand that the first transaction, which was done using the D-FMI platform of Euroclear, was the World Bank issuances. How did you actually, in this particular transaction, ensure that there was a legal, valid, and binding issuance? And maybe actually, what was the governing law of the bonds?
So yeah, the first issuance on the FMI was indeed one of 100 million issuance of World Bank. It was governed by English law, so the notes were governed by English law. But of course, an important caveat is that the transfers of the bonds, they are governed by Belgian law, and that is because, of course, the bonds are transferred on the Euroclear system, which is governed by Belgian law traditionally. So that is an important specification there.
Well, that's very interesting and quite complex, I guess, jurisdictional analysis there.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and of course you can imagine that there were a lot of questions to tackle, because the DSI is being deployed within the current legal framework, so outside of the EU DLT pilot regime, and that also means that we had to tick off a lot of boxes also with our regulator, and so we have obtained indeed several legal opinions from outside counsel, and indeed those opinions also included conflict of laws analysis.
Yeah, no, indeed, I can imagine. Thank you. Maybe going to Fanny. Fanny, maybe a couple of questions on how do you see the DSI service evolving? Will it be extended to other governing laws, maybe other than English law in the future? And actually, do you think that there will be one-day connectivity to Euroclear France?
So when it's related to admission of foreign instruments, so meaning instrument governed by another law than the law applicable to the CSD, there is always an assessment, an analysis to make sure that there is no incompatibility in between the system governing the functioning of the CSD and the law governing the issuance. And so we have a lot of track records according to foreign law governing different kinds of issuance. And of course, a specific assessment will be conducted as well for this kind of specific digital native notes that could be potentially governed by other laws than UK law. So indeed, that assessment will be conducted. In principle, there are very rarely huge obstacles. And so we try anytime to make sure that we can find some adjustment in order to make sure that there would be no incompatibility between the two different kinds of laws. On top of that, indeed, in terms of future concerning the extension of this first service to other potential governing law, there would be in the future the possibility maybe as well to extend the usage of this platform to potentially other CSDs like ESES CSDs and specifically Euroclear France. That will depend, of course, of the appetite and the need of the market. So the issuers and as well our clients or the participants. So we will closely monitor indeed the appetite of the market for this new kind of development, and we'll be ready, of course, to tackle this new challenge. And if there would be any kind of appetite or project by issuers and the custodian activities, they could, of course, reach out to Euroclear and the commercial and innovation team.
Thank you, Fanny. And maybe to help market players understand a bit better the D-FMI platform, is it actually licensed as a CSD itself, or is it its connection to the traditional settlement platform of Euroclear, which allows it for CSDR compliance?
So, as mentioned previously by Bart, this specific component of this project is linked to our legacy system. So the legacy system of settlement operated by Euroclear Bank, sorry. And so it was not necessary to get a specific authorization under the pilot regime because according to CSDR, Euroclear Bank is totally equipped from a regulatory standpoint to run this new technological platform to manage the issuance of digital native notes. So reason why it was not necessary to get a license under the pilot regime, as well as getting additional specific authorization. Euroclear Bank was totally fit for this kind of model under the framework of CSDR that is today applicable to Euroclear Bank.
Well, thank you. That's actually very good. Thank you. Maybe going back to Bart. Bart, I understand that the DSI service actually enables a real-time settlement of trades. Maybe can you please elaborate a bit more on this?
The DLT allows for the automation of different workflows. That's also what we did here, and that's also why we could do that first issuance overall bank on D-FMI on a T+0 basis. So trading and settlement, trading, pricing, settlement, they were all done in a couple of hours. So
amazing. That's actually very good. Thank you. And quite insightful. So I understand that the cash leg, also the settlement of the payment leg, used a digital cash, which actually represented a debt claim against Euroclear Bank. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So in fact, since Euroclear Bank is also a bank, it has the ability to also settle in commercial bank money, and that's exactly what is done in the Euroclear system, the legacy infrastructure, but also on the D-FMI. So there is indeed there are cash tokens which are called digital cash indeed, and they represent a debt claim of the participant against Euroclear Bank.
Thank you. Well, why I'm asking is because it seems quite similar to what at least we have been hearing quite a lot about in practice about deposit tokens, because deposit tokens actually evidence a deposit claim for a fixed amount of fiat money that the holder of such token actually has against its deposit bank. And in that case, as such, the technology or the DOT is used by the deposit bank merely as a technology on which to record this claim of its depositor. Maybe in addition to deposit tokens, there are of course other possible digital assets which may be used for the settlement of the payment leg of the digital bond transaction. And these of course include the usual suspects, which are CBDCs and stablecoins. And while CBDCs are a digital representation of a fiat money issued by a central bank, stablecoins are privately issued type of cryptocurrencies with a mechanism to minimize price fluctuations and provide for a stable value. This stabilization is done either by linking the stablecoin to an asset, like an euro-pegged stablecoin, or by using an algorithm. Why I'm telling you all this is just because I was wondering whether actually the DSI service will evolve in the future to allow settlement against such other type of digital assets like CBDC, stablecoins, or maybe even deposit tokens issued by other commercial banks.
Yes, for sure. So the D-FMI is being designed as an open platform. So it has been part of the vision from the start that there will be other settlement assets on there than the digital cash. The only thing was, at this point in time, we believe that the digital cash was the best solution for the settlement of the cash leg, because CBDC we're not yet there, and stablecoin, we also believe that there's more risk involved with the stablecoin than with digital cash.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Bart. Maybe to go to Alex now, as you have not asked your question so far, Alex. How does the DSI service differ from what you have seen on the AB transactions and maybe other recent digital bond transactions in Europe?
So I think that there are some similarities. So the use of private permission blockchain technology is an obvious one, and that has advantages such as transparency, and indeed D-FMI has an account view interface that allows you to see the holdings of direct participants. And also Euroclear has control over what's happening, with control over the notary and CSD nodes. But there are main and important differences to note. I think there are three ones really. The first for me is the fact that the D-FMI so far is set up for English law transactions, whereas the EIB have done only French law and Luxembourg law so far. That can have an impact on the form of the notes and the intermediaries used in the process. And then the second difference, I think, is how the investors hold their bonds. So there is this option to open as a directed participant an account on the blockchain layer, but otherwise they're going through the usual legacy systems, which means that they can rely upon their usual relationships with the custodians who are account holders under the legacy system. On the EIB deals, the custody was a bit more, custody aspects more complicated because we had to put in place bespoke arrangements between investors and the custodians, so that there was the negotiation of custody agreements and that sort of thing. And then the main difference, I think, is the fact that the D-FMI allows for emission to trading of notes on recognised trading venues, which wasn't the case with EIB. And in fact, the only other way, if you're not going through a CSD, the only other way to do this is if you're using the EU pilot regime. And as you'll be aware, there hasn't yet been any experiments under that regime.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Alex. Maybe about the cash leg, if I can ask a bit more, what was done actually on the IB transactions? We know now that Euroclear uses digital cash, but how about these other transactions?
Yeah, so they've used a number of different solutions for the cash leg. So we've seen wholesale CBDC tokens circulating on a different DLT platform to the securities DLT platform. We've seen settlement tokens used to create bridges between deposit bank accounts off-chain and the blockchain platform used for the securities leg. And we've also seen T+0 done just using usual payment rails off-chain. So there have been a number of different things done, but obviously the option to have real-time or settlement within 2 hours on D-FMI is very attractive indeed.
Can you please summarize for us, what for you are the advantages of using the DSI service, and how can it advance the adoption of DLT for the issuance of debt securities?
So one of the main advantage of this new project and product is to have a first step in the DLT environment without having any inconvenience related to that, specifically because you have access to full liquidity, as explained earlier by Bart, because further to the primary issuance that is performed within the DLD, there is indeed this secondary market that is settled within the legacy system operated by Euroclear Bank. One of the other advantages related to that is that the digital native notes can be used for collateral management purposes, be it in transaction between two parties as well as within the mechanism of the tri-party mechanism for collateral management without any specific delays. And certainly the last advantages, and one of the main point, is the fact that the primary issuance is performed within T+0. Again, it was explained by Bart earlier, but it's reduced a lot of cost and mechanism because, again, there is no bearer form, no registered form, and so you don't have to manage all this kind of aspect that we are supposed to manage when it's related to standard Eurobond. So there is a huge benefit for the primary issuance with all the advantages of the technology, with all the benefit of the traditional environment related, again, to the fact that it is settled on the system operated by Euroclear Bank. And again, the last element is related to the cash aspect, because it is not required to have CBDC, stable coins. You have the cash solution that is provided by Euroclear Bank with the settlement in commercial bank money. So it was really the perfect compromise in between the two environments, the traditional environment related to all the management of the risk aspect and the benefit of using the DLT as a technology that is fit to achieve a better result in terms of efficiency and rapidity.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I think we can only echo the sentiment that clearly it's a very exciting development for the market, and we hope that everything goes well in the future. So thank you very much, Fanny and Bart and Boika as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.